Welcome to Journey Across History Official. In this video, we will delve into one of the most transformative periods in American history, the Civil Rights Movement of the 1950s and 1960s. This powerful movement, driven by the tireless efforts of activists, leaders, and everyday citizens, fought to dismantle the systemic racism and discrimination that had long plagued the United States. Join us as we explore the key events, figures, and lasting impact of this pivotal chapter in the nation's journey towards equality and justice. The Civil Rights Movement was born out of centuries of oppression and injustice faced by African Americans. The legacy of slavery, which had officially ended with the 13th Amendment in 1865, continued to cast a long shadow over American society well into the 20th century. The post-Reconstruction era saw the rise of Jim Crow laws, a series of state and local statutes that mandated racial segregation and relegated African Americans to second-class citizenship. This system of institutionalized racism permeated every aspect of life, from education and housing to public accommodations and voting rights. The seeds of the modern civil rights movement were sown in the aftermath of World War II. The war had exposed the glaring contradiction between America's professed ideals of freedom and democracy and the reality of racial discrimination at home. African American veterans, who had fought and sacrificed for their country overseas, returned to a nation that still denied them basic rights and opportunities. This dissonance fueled a growing sense of urgency and determination among African Americans to challenge the status quo and demand change. Early legal challenges to segregation, spearheaded by organizations, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, laid the groundwork for the Civil Rights Movement. The landmark Supreme Court case of Brown v. Board of Education, 1954, which declared segregation in public schools unconstitutional, marked a significant victory and set the stage for further battles against racial discrimination. The Civil Rights Movement gained momentum in the mid-1950s with the Montgomery Bus Boycott, 1955 and 1956. The boycott, triggered by the arrest of Rosa Parks for refusing to give up her bus seat to a white passenger, showcased the power of collective action and nonviolent resistance. Under the leadership of a young Martin Luther King Jr., the African American community in Montgomery, Alabama, organized a 13-month boycott of the city's bus system, ultimately leading to the desegregation of public transportation. The success of the Montgomery Bus Boycott inspired a wave of direct action and civil disobedience across the South. The Greensboro sit-ins, 1960, where 4 African-American college students staged a sit-in at a segregated lunch counter, sparked a nationwide sit-in movement that challenged segregation in public accommodations. The Freedom Rides, 1961, organized by the Congress of Racial Equality, CORE, tested the enforcement of a Supreme Court decision banning segregation in interstate travel. Despite facing violence and arrests, the Freedom Riders persevered, drawing national attention to the brutality of segregation. The Birmingham Campaign, 1963, led by Martin Luther King Jr. and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, was a turning point in the civil rights movement. Through a series of nonviolent demonstrations, including the famous Children's Crusade, activists confronted the notorious police commissioner Bull Connor and his ruthless tactics. The media coverage of Connor's use of fear, hoses, and police dogs against peaceful protesters shocked the nation and galvanized support for the movement. The March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, 1963, stands as one of the most iconic moments of the civil rights movement. On August 28, 1963, over 250,000 people gathered at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. to demand equal rights and economic opportunity. It was here that Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his legendary "I Have a Dream" speech, a soaring call for racial justice and unity that resonated across the nation. The civil rights movement's sustained activism and moral authority compelled the federal government to take action. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson, was a landmark piece of legislation that prohibited discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin in public accommodations, employment, and education. The Voting Rights Act of 1965, enacted in response to the ongoing struggle for voting rights in the South, banned discriminatory voting practices, and ensured the right to vote for African Americans. Other significant legislative achievements included the Fair Housing Act of 1968, which prohibited discrimination in housing, and the Civil Rights Act of 1968, which provided federal protection against hate crimes. These laws, while not perfect, represented crucial steps towards dismantling the legal framework of racial oppression and ensuring equal rights for all Americans. The civil rights movement was shaped by the courage, resilience, and leadership of countless individuals and organizations. Martin Luther King Jr., the most prominent figure of the movement, exemplified the power of nonviolent resistance and moral persuasion. His soaring oratory, including the "I Have a Dream" speech and the "Letter from Birmingham Jail," inspired a nation and continues to resonate today. Rosa Parks, whose refusal to give up her bus seat sparked the Montgomery Bus Boycott, became an icon of the movement and a symbol of the power of individual action. Her quiet strength and determination in the face of injustice made her a role model for generations of activists. Malcolm X, a controversial and charismatic figure, represented a different approach to the struggle for racial justice. As a leader of the Nation of Islam, he advocated for Black empowerment, self-determination, and, at times, armed self-defense. While his views often clashed with those of King and other civil rights leaders, his influence on the movement and his critique of systemic racism continue to be examined and debated. The civil rights movement was also driven by the tireless efforts of organizations like the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, and the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC. The SCLC, co-founded by Martin Luther King Jr., played a key role in coordinating and mobilizing civil rights activism across the South. SNCC, a student-led organization, was at the forefront of the movement, organizing sit-ins, freedom rides, and voter registration drives, and nurturing a new generation of activists and leaders. The civil rights movement transformed American society and reshaped the nation's understanding of equality and justice. The dismantling of legal segregation through landmark legislation like the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act marked a significant milestone in the long struggle for racial equality. The movement's successes paved the way for greater opportunities and representation for African Americans in politics, education, employment, and other spheres of life. The movement's impact extended beyond the realm of race, inspiring and informing other social justice movements. The tactics and strategies employed by civil rights activists, from nonviolent resistance to mass mobilization, have been adopted by movements fighting for women's rights, LGBT rights, disability rights, and environmental justice. The civil rights movement demonstrated the power of collective action and the importance of grassroots organizing in effecting social change. However, the work of the civil rights movement remains unfinished. While legal segregation has been abolished, the legacy of systemic racism continues to manifest in persistent disparities in education, housing, healthcare, criminal justice, and economic opportunity. The ongoing struggle for racial justice, as highlighted by the Black Lives Matter movement and other contemporary activism, underscores the need for continued vigilance, activism, and commitment to the ideals of the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement stands as a defining chapter in American history, a testament to the power of ordinary people to challenge injustice and bring about extraordinary change. The courage, sacrifice, and moral clarity of the movement's leaders and participants forever altered the course of the nation and inspired generations to continue the fight for equality and justice. As we reflect on the lessons of the civil rights movement, we are reminded of the importance of individual and collective action in the face of oppression. We are called to confront the unfinished work of the movement and to strive towards a society that truly embodies the principles of liberty, justice, and equal opportunity for all. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of the civil rights movement. If you found this video informative and inspiring, please consider subscribing to Journey Across History Official for more in-depth examinations of pivotal moments in history. We encourage you to share your thoughts, reflections, and personal experiences related to the civil rights movement in the comments below. Together, we can work towards building a more just, equitable, and inclusive society for all.